Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Elise Vennik, and I welcome you today on Tallinna Vesi's webinar, where we will be representing our results for the second quarter of 2019. The webinar will be hosted by the Chairman of the Board, Karl-Heino Bruks, and Chief Financial Officer, Riina Käi. Firstly, Karl and Riina will introduce Tallinna Vesi's operational and financial results for the first 6 months of 2019. And then, right after the presentation, we would gladly answer all of the questions that you may have. To ask questions, we encourage you to use the question box that you will see on the right-hand side of your screens. So anytime throughout the presentation or right after that, please feel free to type in your questions, and Riina and Karl will be answering those. So without further ado, I will now give it over to Karl-Heino Bruks and Riina Käi for the presentation. Please, Karl and Riina.
Thank you, Elise. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining the Q2 2019 webinar today. As is customary, we'll start with an update on our operations so far this year, which in summary have been very good. So water quality remains very high at 99.17%, and so far this year we've taken 725 samples from across the network and at the customers' taps. Leakage rate is also an all-time low. We seem to get better and better, so the current leakage rate is 11.6%. and that compares very well to 13% at the same time last year. Customer interruption times have also shown significant improvement. So the average now for a customer interruption is 2 hours 39 minutes, which compares very well to 3 hours 35 minutes at the same time last year. The final effluent that leaves our wastewater treatment plant at Paljusaare is also very good and is fully compliant with the water permit parameters. In terms of customer satisfaction, we have a scoring mechanism of 1 to 5, with 5 being the best, and currently we're running at 4.1. We do have an internal target of 4.2, which we're going to try and get to by the end of the year. So that's in brief summary of the operation. So moving on to the tariff dispute. And first of all, let's start with the local case and a bit of history. So back on the 12th of December 2017, as you all know, we lost our cassation in the Supreme Court related to the ongoing tariff dispute. And this now means we are regulated by the Competition Authority, and this application process is ongoing. In terms of that tariff application, we submitted an application at the beginning of 2018 for Tallinn and Saue. In September, a further application was submitted to cover the operations that we have in some of the surrounding municipalities. In December last year, the CA partially approved the application but refused to approve the price of water services. Their current view is that the revenue should be approximately 10 million lower than was applied for, and this links to two key components, one related to a capital component and the other related to a pollution tax incentive. The company has appealed that decision to the CA. The appeal was subsequently refuted, and we've now commenced a fresh legal challenge to the Tallinn Administrative Court, and that is ongoing. So that's the local situation. So moving on to the international arbitration. Okay, just turning up my notes. So on the 14th of October 2014, and subsequent to the previously sent letter before action, the company and United Utilities Tallinn BV commenced international arbitration proceedings against the Republic of Estonia for a breach of the agreement on the encroachment and reciprocal protection of investments between the Kingdom of the Netherlands and the Republic of Estonia, the treaty. The company claimed that the Republic of Estonia breached the fair and equitable treatment requirement by changes to the law and the activities of the public authorities, which deprived AS Tallinna Vesi of tariffs approved according to the service agreement that was signed back at the time of privatisation back in 2001. So that was the commencement of the international arbitration proceedings. On the 21st of June, we received very disappointing news that we'd lost our arbitration claim. In addition to that, we were also ordered to pay 25% of Republic of Estonia's costs which amounts to circa 665k. We're not sure of the exact figure yet. This was very sad news. I mean, whilst it makes no difference to the overall result and there is no appeal mechanism, the panel member that was acting for us dissented from the other two panel members, and which is quite unusual in international arbitrations. I think usually it's a full majority. And you can read that dissent actually as part of the award on the ICSID website. Whilst we were very successful in many of our arguments, and we were also successful in many of the challenges that were subsequently brought later by Estonia's legal team, we didn't have sufficient protection in the contract, and we didn't satisfy the terms of the treaty, which is in summary why we lost the international arbitration. So that's the end of the international arbitration. In terms of the company's current priorities, clearly what's number one on our agenda at the moment is to get a tariff set and in place with the competition authority. And as I said before, that is ongoing. Apologies, my computer's making Outlook noises as I'm speaking. So that's number one, to talk to competition authority. And of course, we will look as to where we can create further efficiencies in the business and perhaps find some additional growth through Watercom. But clearly, to close a 10 million gap in revenues is going to be quite a significant challenge. Okay, that concludes my part of the presentation. I will be here for questions afterwards, but I'll now hand you over to Rina, who will take you through the financial results in a lot more detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl, and good morning to everyone. Now I would like to give you the overview of the financial performance of Aktsiaselts Tallinna Vesi in the second quarter in 2019. After financial highlights, I will give more detailed overview about sales and costs. The performance of the group continues to be good. Total sales revenues were 1.1% or 0.17 million euros higher than in the first quarter in 2018. The sales of water and wastewater services increased by 0.7% or 0.10 million euros. It was accompanied by higher revenues from stormwater treatment and disposal services revenues from main service area by 15.4% or 0.14 million euros. Pipe construction and asphalting sales was down by 7.1% or 0.11 million euros. The gross profit for the first quarter in 2019 was lower by 1.2% or 0.11 million euros compared to the same period in 2018. The gross profit was impacted by higher direct production costs. It was balanced by higher revenues. In the first quarter in 2019, the operating profit was 0.94 million euros lower than in the same period in 2018, being additionally affected by legal costs arisen from the negative decision from ICSID. Compared to the first quarter in 2018, the net profit of the company was 2.67 million euros lower, being additionally affected by the higher dividend income tax. Now let's move on to the next slides, and I will comment on the changes in revenues and expenses a bit closer. Let's start from the sales. Total sales revenues for the second quarter of 2019 increased by 1.1% or 0.17 million euros. Total revenues from water and wastewater services were by 0.7% or 0.17 million euros higher than in the second quarter of 2018, amounting to 16.15 million euros. As we still operate with the frozen tariffs, the change in water and wastewater revenues was solely driven by the consumption. The domestic consumption in Tallinn and Saue area increased compared to the same period in 2018 by 1.6% or 123,000 cubic meters to 7.5 million cubic meters. The increase in domestic sector came from apartment blocks. The consumption in apartment blocks increased by 2.3%. The commercial sector consumption in Tallinn and Saue area decreased by 2.9% or 78,000 cubic meters to 2.7 million cubic meters. The decrease came from industry and other commercial client groups and was partly balanced by increase in leisure segment. Total volumes from outside service area have shown an increase by 7% to 1.26 million cubic meters compared to the comparative period in 2018. The increase was mainly driven by higher waste and stormwater volumes. Stormwater volumes from the main service area were higher by 16.3%. The revenues from construction and asphalting services showed a decrease of 7.1% or 0.11 million euros compared to the second quarter in 2018. This now takes us to the costs. The total cost of goods sold in the second quarter of 2019 were higher by 3.9% or 0.3 million euros, amounting to 7.4 million euros. Direct main production costs have increased by 12.3% or 195,000 euros, mostly due to the higher electricity costs and also chemical costs. Chemical costs increase of 24% to 0.43 million euros is driven mainly by higher usage of methanol, coagulant and polymers to remove nitrogen from the wastewater, balanced partly by 13.2% lower price of methanol. Electricity costs increase of 17% to 0.82 million euros is driven by an average 17% higher prices. Staff costs increase by 4.5% to 1.7 million euros. The increase is mainly driven by higher construction services related workload in Watercom, but also salary increases. Depreciation costs increased 2.3% to 1.3 million euros. The increase is related to the change of accounting for leases as IFRS 16 became effective from 1st of January 2019. Construction and asphalting services costs decrease of 8.3% to 1.25 million euros is related to lower pipe construction and asphalting services revenues mentioned earlier. Other costs of goods sold increase of 7.4% to 1.34 million euros is mainly related to higher sludge disposal costs. Administrative and marketing costs increase of 7.8% to 1.37 million euros is mainly related to the negative award from Exit, and as a result the company must compensate the Estonian government 25% of the Exit-related legal costs. Net financial expenses have mostly been at the same level as in the second quarter in 2018. It takes us now to the cash flows. The cash position as of 30th of June 2019 continues to be strong. The company's cash balance stood at 58.89 million euros, forming 23.4% of the total assets. Compared to the end of the second quarter in 2018, the cash balance has increased by 6.74 million euros. The biggest contribution to the cash flows comes from the main operations. The company's collection of receivables continues to be high, being on average 99.7%. In 2019, net cash flows from investing activities resulted in a cash outflow of 1.4 million euros compared to the cash outflow of 1.67 million euros in the comparative period in 2018. The investments into fixed assets has been at 0.33 million euros lower than in 2018. The compensation for pipes received were at the same level of 1.67 million euros as during the first 6 months in 2018. The company's financing cash flows were negative of 17.66 million euros, which is 9.46 million more than in 2018. In 2019, the company paid out dividends of 75 cents per share, which is more than 2 times more than in 2018. During the first 6 months, the company paid back also the first installment of the loan in the amount of 1.8 million euros. That concludes the short overview of the financial results for second quarter of 2019.
Thank you very much, Rina and Carl, for the presentation. We will now proceed with the questions in the order that they are received. Currently, I think we've already received the first question, but we will give you a few minutes to submit your questions. So a short reminder, if any of you want to ask questions, please use the question box on the right-hand side of your screens, type the questions in, and then we will answer them shortly. Thank you very much. I will give a couple of minutes for asking questions now.
Elise, can you hear me?
Yes, we are back live and we've received several questions. So we will start with them out in the order that they were received. And the first question was asked by Sander Danil, and it was related to the local court case. And Sander Danil asks, what are the next deadlines in the local court case started in March this year?
Okay, I think this is one for Rina to answer, but I think we're waiting for a date from the Court of Second Instance, but perhaps Rina can confirm that.
Thank you, Carl, and thank you, Sander. Yes, we don't have a confirmed deadline yet.
Thank you, Rina, for that. And the next question was also asked by Sander Danil, and he was asking, it seems that all additional costs related to the international arbitration were expensed by TVE. Why these costs are not distributed between Tallinna Vesi and United Utilities? Carl, please.
Okay, yes, we've not actually paid the cost yet. It's just been taken as a provision there. This is a conversation that we need to have with the chairman and the board of the company. So I'm not in a position to discuss that at the moment. We do have our board meeting next week, and that's something we can discuss there.
Thank you, Carl. Then we have a next question from Arvidas Yakevichus asking about electricity and chemical costs, precisely whether we expect them to stay on current higher levels in H2 of 2019 as well.
Thank you for the question. I will take that. As regards to electricity cost, yes, I would expect the electricity cost be more elevated compared to the last year, because last year we managed to fix the electricity prices at a quite low level. And as you most probably are aware, the electricity prices in 2019 compared to 2018 have increased quite remarkably. What we do fix the prices either short or long term depending which is more favorable. So we are looking through the procurement to find the best prices for the company as possible. As regard to chemicals, I suppose also that the trend is ongoing also for the second half of this year. Despite the fact that methanol price has been lower, we needed to put a little bit more methanol into the process.
Thank you very much, Rina, for the answer. We have another one from Sander Danil asking about the exact amount of international arbitration-related costs booked in the second quarter of 2019. And also, should we expect some additional costs driven by ongoing local court cases? Rina, could you comment on the costs related to the arbitration?
Thank you for the question. As Carl already mentioned, the estimated cost that we have taken as a provision into the second quarter's results for legal cost provision has been 665,000, which should be a proxy of the 25% of Estonian government's total legal costs. As Carl mentioned before, the final cost is not yet known, so it can vary a bit, but the approximate amount should be there and thereabouts. As regards the local cost, of course, we will have some additional legal costs also this year as far as the legal cases are ongoing, but they are far being comparable of the exit-related costs, as exit-related costs were much higher than that. So the local legal cost won't be remarkable and won't affect our financial results as badly.
Thank you, Rina. I saw that we had another question from Arvidas Yakevichus, and he's asking if we see it possible that the competition authority will set the temporary lower tariffs already in the third quarter of 2019. Carl, please, could you?
Okay. Clearly, we'd much rather settle with the competition authority and reach agreement and set the tariffs. You're quite correct in that the Competition Authority did commence supervisory proceedings back in December of last year, and there is the potential of a precept being issued, but let's hope things don't come to that. At the moment, we are in dialogue, and there is correspondence between us and the Competition Authority. So, but I can't be precise in terms of when the tariff will actually be agreed and set. Even when we agree the tariff, it will take several weeks for that to be ratified in terms of informing the customers and the City of Tallinn and final approvals and so on. So I think the soonest it could probably happen would be towards Q4, but please, I can't confirm that for definite. I don't know if Rina has anything you would like to add.
I just wanted to mention, thank you for Carl for the explanations, but yes, Q3 is too early for any prices to be set, because currently it's already the end of July, which means that we've got only 1 month to go for the third quarter. So earliest it can happen is the fourth quarter.
Thank you very much, Carl and Rina. And it seems like we don't have any more questions unanswered, so we will once again leave a couple of minutes for you to submit any additional questions that might have arisen from the answers, and then we will be answering those. So please submit your questions. Thank you. Okay, we've received another question from Sander Danil asking whether there are any specific legal aspects that might trigger the competition authority to apply temporary lower tariffs to the company. Please, Carl and Rina, would you comment?
Thank you, Sander, for your question. I would put it that way that, as Carl already mentioned, there are supervisory proceedings ongoing. There are no extra legal triggers going on, and there is still kind of a correspondence between the company and the competition authority, and we hope to on some point get the tariffs in place and continue with the normal operations.
Thank you very much, Rina. Currently, no other questions are unanswered, but we will wait just a brief moment to see if maybe Sander Danil wants to ask additional questions. Okay, so thank you. It seems like we do not have any follow-up questions, and we will be concluding our webinar for today. Thank you very much once again to all of the participants who joined in during this nice and warm summer, and thank you very much to Carl Heinebrooks and Rina Kay for the presentations and answers provided. So just a reminder that the recording of the presentation will also be available on the Nasdaq Baltic YouTube channel, webinar playlists very shortly, and the presentation materials and reports can be found on Tallinna Vesi's webpage. So thank you for everybody who participated. Have a good day.
Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.